The other day I was going through one of my ridiculous knife drawers organizing, and I came across some knives that I don't carry anymore and probably never will again. So here are 5 knives that I regret buying. Now, I don't have anything against any of the brands mentioned. This is just my personal opinion about these knives and why I regret buying them. Now, some of these models may still be available and some may be discontinued. I don't know. This is simply a focus on the individual knives that I have in my possession and why I don't like them. First on the list is the loved by many, hated by few Kershaw Blur. Now, I happen to not like this knife, mainly because I had 2 major problems for me. The first one is that I had lockup issues. When I first received it, the liner lock would fail at the absolute slightest tap. And it actually folded on me during actual use a number of times, which is not very good. Now, this is an old knife. This was well over 10 years ago when I bought this, well before I started YouTube, so I don't have any actual video on the issues, and I can't show you now because I took the knife apart and fixed it by grinding a little material off of the liner lock, and I accidentally ground a little bit too much. Anyway, it fixed the issue. However, there was still one major issue. It kept opening in my pocket. Now, I've had this knife open on me multiple times in both my left pocket and carrying it in my right pocket. The problem is these super pointy thumb studs, which are great for your thumb, but if anything brushes against your pocket with any type of force and catches the stud, it's opening. Now, naysayers may say, well, how often do you actually brush up against something hard enough to pop this thing open? Quite often, especially if you climb ladders all day long like I did when I was carrying this knife. If you know, you know. Now, luckily, I didn't cut myself any of the times it accidentally opened in my pocket, but after the 3rd or 4th time it opened, I couldn't take the risk anymore or afford to keep buying new pants. And that is why I regret buying the Kershaw Blur. Now, the next knife that I regret buying is the Buck Knives Spitfire. On paper, this knife looked great. However, in the hand, it fell a little bit short. Now, the problem that I have with this is how stiff this knife is in operation. Oh, man. I mean, it's no joke. Both opening and closing this knife is stiff. Like, I can't. I mean, it's bad. The lock bar, it needs a little bit of tweaking in order for it to function properly. And if I can't close this knife easily with one hand with a simple movement, then the knife is just not for me. Now, the next thing about this knife is the actual blade shape itself. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the very slight recurve this blade shape has. It just makes sharpening that much more difficult, and I'm not really sure that it's super beneficial in actual use. There's definitely more downsides to this slight recurve than there is plus sides, upsides. With that being said, I feel like they were really close with this knife. I feel like if they loosened up the action just a little bit and changed the blade shape slightly, I would actually really like this knife. However, it's just way too stiff of an action and it's just completely unusable for me. And that is why I regret buying, I am not joking here, the Buck Knives Spitfire. Now, the next knife on the list is the Spyderco Endura Wave. Now, the Endura is usually one of my absolute favorite knives to carry, even though I'm not typically a backlock fan. But the rest of this knife is usually great. However, the wave opening feature of this knife, which makes this knife super fun and super fast to open, only comes in a saber ground version, or it did when I originally bought this knife. And this blade is thick, my friends. Now, I have only sharpened this knife a handful of times, and look how thick that thing is. I mean, it is a thick blade. Thick secondary bevel, and for that reason it simply just doesn't cut a lot of stuff very well. Now, if this wave feature blade was on a fully flat ground blade like a lot of their other knives, I would like this knife a whole lot more. I just can't get over the absolute ridiculousness of the thickness that this blade is. Now, I do have plans to fix this myself, which would include a complete regrind, but for now, I'm kind of stuck with it. And it's for that simple reason, that simple blade thickness issue, that I probably shouldn't have bought this knife, and I don't carry it. Now, the next knife is the Spyderco Endura Salt Series in H1. Now again, I do like the Endura series, just not in these versions. Now I'm not sure if they are still making the Endura in the Salt series or the H1 steel, but this is some of the worst edge retention steel maybe of all time. It's not great. Now I get it, edge retention isn't the point of this knife. I'm not sure if that's pun intended or pun not intended. And I actually use this knife a lot for its actual purpose, which is corrosion resistance. I use this knife a lot in the wintertime to open rock salt bags. I mean, this thing has literally been in salt almost all of the times that I have actually been carrying this. Now, as you can see by the wear marks all over this thing from cutting open rock salt bags for snow removal, there's absolutely zero rust anywhere, and I've never oiled the blade or really even maintained it at all. So the H1 steel is great for corrosion resistance. It is not good for edge retention. And the problem was that the edge retention was just so bad that it would literally be butter knife dull halfway through the day. It would need to be resharpened before the day was even over. And I mean, it was that bad. So for my purposes, even in a very corrosive work environment, it simply didn't work well. And it's also just another super thick, ridiculously thick blade. It should be way thinner, at least for my purposes, and I think for a lot of other purposes as well. And that's why I regret buying it. Now last, but definitely not least, and maybe the absolute worst purchase of all, is the now discontinued Buck 270 Alpha Dorado. Now this knife initially looked like a cool little compact belt knife since it originally came with a sheath, which I've since lost, rather than a pocket clip. Now my original thought with this knife was to try and get some stuff out of my pockets and out of the way on the belt. However, I was never really able to give that a try with this knife because when I received it, it didn't stay locked open. I mean, you can just fold it with your fingers. It might as well be a slip joint. It also has maybe one of the worst actions that I've ever seen, which is saying a lot, especially considering that we just talked about the Buck Spitfire. Also, it is way thicker in the handle than it originally appeared on paper. And I mean, this is like the most overbuilt knife that isn't actually overbuilt. It's ridiculous. I mean, look how small, look how absolutely minuscule that liner is compared to the rest of the knife. It's kind of hilarious. I mean, it is absolutely just a tank of a knife for its size, and the fact that it doesn't function the way it should out of the box, it kind of made this go in a drawer only to be forgotten about till years later. I don't think that I've ever actually carried this knife a single time. It's just like a, It's for all of those reasons mentioned that I completely regret buying this thing. Let me just close it, get it out of the way. So those are the 5 knives that I regret buying. I feel like some of these are so close to being really good functioning knives, but it's the little things. Staying locked open. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Definitely discontinued Buck 270 Alpha Dorado.